Mr. Jason Frazer, USAID Country Representative to Jamaica, Ms. Shauna Travis, Chief Technical Director at the Ministry of National Security, Chief of Partner of the Local Partner Development, Marano Smadlaka Krajnovic, representatives of our other partner organizations here this morning, Janelle De Freitas, Foundation Manager of CAC 2000 Foundation, Ms. Andrina Davis, CEO of the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Mr. Wayne McKenzie, President and CEO of the Jamaica Private Power Company Limited and West Kingston Power Partners, Ms. Marilyn MacDonald, Manager of Community Renewal at the Jamaica Public Service, Professor Rosalie Hamilton, CEO of the Lasco Chin Foundation, Ms. Audrey Stuart Hinchcliffe, Chairman and CEO of Manpower and Maintenance Service Limited, Commander George Overton of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, other specially invited guests in the room, those who are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Good morning. My name is Archibald Gordon, and this morning I am your guide for this Private Sector Partnership Forum on Youth Crime and Violence Prevention. Now today is a first, and it's a big deal. And we all know well the toll that crime and violence has had on our communities at a national level, including the impact on individuals as well as companies. And youth are at the center of this phenomenon. According to the Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, 40% of all known murder offenders in Jamaica are young men aged 15 to 24 years. That's 4 out of 10. Crime data, according to the National Security Minister over the past decade, shows that increasingly the victims and perpetrators of Category 1 crimes fall within the 15 to 24 age group. According to the minister, 16% rather, of murder victims were between the ages of 15 and 24, while in 2019 and 2018, the percentage of youth victims relative to murder were 21% and 22% respectively. Youth within this age range are taking up leadership roles, said the National Security Minister, within violent gangs and are being groomed by dons and other violence producers to commit guns and other violent crimes. So this is a serious problem. And we know as well that the companies have been a part of that, of a national conversation really, about crime, and few have been involved in crime prevention initiatives. So that is the context of today. It's a big deal. We are breaking new ground. Today, a core group of private sector organizations working with the LPD Private Sector Partnerships for Crime Prevention Program will be signing a grant agreement formalizing work that has already begun in some cases, delivering services to 180 youth in hotspot communities in Kingston, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. James. This includes areas such as skills training, employment programs, work experience, and psychosocial interventions. That's a pretty big deal, as I've said before. These include the CAC Foundation, CAC 2000 Foundation, Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, the Jamaica Energy Partners, the Jamaica Public Service Foundation, Lasco Chin Foundation, Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited. That grant agreement will be signed later this morning, and we'll also hear in a panel discussion about some of the work and why these companies are signing this historic agreement. But first, to bring greetings, I would like to invite USAID Country Director Jason Frazer to the lectern.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here today on behalf of the people of the United States of America to participate in the launch of this private sector forum to help support some of the most vulnerable youth in the country who are impacted by crime and violence. Excuse me, being told it's not high enough. So to Ms. Shauna Travis, Chief Technical Director, the Ministry of National Security, to Ms. Morana Frajanovic, FHI 360 Chief of Party, to Ms. Janelle De Freitas, Foundation Manager for CAC 2000 Foundation, Mr. Curtis Sweeney, Counseling Psychologist for the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Mr. Wayne McKenzie, President and CEO of Jamaica Energy Partners, Ms. Marilyn McDonald, Manager to Community Renewal Jamaica Public Service, Professor Rosalie Hamilton, Chief Executive Officer for the Lasco Chin Foundation, Audrey Stewart Hinchcliffe, Chairman and CEO of Manpower and Maintenance Service Limited. Again, thank you and greetings on behalf of the United States government and USAID. As many of you know, the U.S. government remains committed to supporting the government and the people of Jamaica to achieve the national development goals as outlined under Vision 2030. So I'm proud that through the United States Agency for International Development, we are partnering not only with the government of Jamaica, but with private sector organizations that are equally committed to help solve Jamaica's long-standing challenges with crime and violence. To promote strong and vibrant societies, addressing these challenges is critical, because it's not just one component, but many components that hinder society's ability to thrive. When we build stronger and more vibrant communities and societies, we provide more opportunities that allow both people and communities to flourish. But in order for this to become a reality, we understand there is the need for the commitment and collaboration of a wide cross-section of local actors, including government, civil society organizations, and of course the private sector. To me, the private sector is a very valuable resource in the fight against crime and violence because of the expertise, the networks, and innovation it possesses. Partnerships such as the one we are recognizing today harness innovation, creativity, and tangible programs that will lead to the improvement and the effectiveness of tackling the issues associated with crime and violence involving our youth. So I'm pleased to see that the 6 companies represented here today, the CAC 2000 Foundation, the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Jamaica Energy Partners, the Jamaica Public Service, the Lasco Chin Foundation, and the Manpower Maintenance and Services Limited, all of those organizations and those that will join the partnership later are taking bold steps to develop and implement programs that will improve the social, educational, and economic opportunities for some of the most at-risk youth in this country. I'm also happy about the other 18 or so businesses that open their doors to take on young apprentices. I think I met somebody earlier today who is involved in one of these apprenticeships. It's not just offering a means of learning, but also a means of earning, but also equipping them with valuable technical and professional skills that will help them to propel to a better future. Again, this is an excellent initiative, and we hope that as you, the early adopters, lead, other private sector entities will come on board to support the change that we are collectively seeking to bring about in the lives of youth and their communities. So we at USAID look forward to hearing more about your activities and successes as this program progresses. So all the best, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frazer. Next, we will hear from Shauna Travis. She is Chief Technical Director, as I said earlier, at the Ministry of National Security. She is a strategic thinker with over 22 years in policy development and analysis in a varied list of developmental areas, including finance, taxation, and national security. Ms. Travis is trained in project management and change management. She has been in that post at the ministry since October 2018. Prior to joining the Ministry of National Security, Ms. Travis was Director of Tax Policy Development for over 8 years at the Ministry of Finance. Please make her welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Master of Ceremonies, when you started and you said 22 years, I thought, who is he talking about? But I'm young. I'm troubling. I didn't realize I was here so long. So I'll give regards to the Master of Ceremony, Mr. Archibald Gordon, Mr. Jason Frazer, Country Representative USA Jamaica, Mrs. Marina Smoleka Kranovich. Feel like I should get a prize for that, Marina. Chief of Party, esteemed members of the panel, Janelle De Freitas, CAC 2000 Foundation, Professor Rosalia Hamilton, Lasco Development Foundation, Miss Sandrina Davis, Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Mrs. Audrey Stewart Hitchcliffe, or is it Hinckliffe? Hinchcliffe, thank you. Manpower and Maintenance Services, Mr. Wayne McKenzie, Jamaica Energy Partners, Mrs. Marilyn McDonald Watson, JPS Foundation. We have our Commander George Overton representing the PSOJ and other specially invited guests. It is my distinct pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of the Ministry of National Security. Now, first, I'd like to use the opportunity to extend our sincerest and apologies for our Permanent Secretary, Mr. Courtney Williams. He had to be called away to another function at this time, and so he regrets not being here. The Ministry of National Security gladly accepted this engagement, as it is our distinct pleasure to partner with FHA 360 once more. The Ministry recognizes the sustained work of the LPD to work closely with Jamaica's local organizations, especially our private sector, in order to provide for sustainability in the area of youth crime and violence prevention. As you might be aware, the government of Jamaica through the MNS is committed to ensuring that all partnerships are geared at not only providing for isolated projects, but underpinned by a greater goal of citizen security through social investment. And this has recently been exposed, and I use the word recent because 2020 is kind of near, even though far, the government's commitment to the Citizen Security Plan. And one of the main things I'd want us to focus on is that I think having joined national security from a financial background, sometimes you think you know until you know, right? So crime is complex, it's multi-layered, multi-sectored, it requires a deeper, greater look. Everyone has to do more. Government has to do more, private sector has to do more, the citizens have to do more, the communities. We're not only trying to have outputs and tick a box, but we're looking for outcomes and making real change, not intervention, which kind of looks like we're just going to do something and leave. New nomenclature, the ministry, investment. We're looking at investment, social investment in our communities and in our citizens. To ensure this, we're committed to evidence-based crime prevention programs, which leverage partnerships with other MDs, civil society, and most importantly, our international development partners, such as the LPD. The LPD Sector Partnership for Crime Prevention Program is considered to be aligned with the Government of Jamaica's medium to long-term goal of building and sustaining the required resilience in communities so as to reduce their vulnerability and volatility. The MNS applauds this initiative, particularly given the prevailing challenges that have been brought on by our current COVID-19 pandemic. The recognition that we cannot do it alone, and we cannot continue to operate in a silo manner is brought even more home given the recent challenges. The 6 companies, and I think we've heard them named over, so I won't name them again, have taken on this challenge and they are applauded. And the MNS has committed to work with our partners in recognition of the need to deliver an integrated approach to communities spread across the parishes of Kingston, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. James. Crime prevention is holistic, And even as we secure areas, critical work is needed to ensure that our youth benefit from skills training, employment programs, and of course, psychosocial interventions. As in anywhere in the world, the most vulnerable communities require consistent commitment. There was a statement that I heard the other day about concrete and the fact that a drip of water, as small as it is, if consistent, wears away the concrete. And so we're not disheartened, even though we see the numbers. And we probably personally or others have faced some areas of crime. It is consistent hard work, but we must be consistent to the commitment. And of course, it takes cash to care. So funding is important. Funding to be empowered and successful in our fight against crime and violence. The Ministry of National Security takes pride in being given this opportunity today to be a part of this forum. I'd like you to enjoy the rest of your day, keep safe, and continue to live good.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. We are not just trying to tick a box, not just looking at interventions, but looking indeed at outcomes today. And it's time to get into the meat of the matter. We are going to be doing the grant signing right now. So I'm going to be inviting the partners to head over to the desk. That includes Jason Frazer from USAID, as well as Marana Smudlaka Krajnovic from the LPD Private Sector Partnerships for Crime Prevention Program, as well as the partners on the program overall, CAC 2000, Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, the Jamaica Energy Partners, and the Jamaica Public Service Company, as well as the Lasco Chin Foundation and the Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited. Just to remind you, while we are making the arrangements and everyone's just getting settled so that we can do the signing of some of the work that we're doing in these areas, we have 180 youth in hotspot communities within the parishes of Kingston, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. James, who are going to be impacted by these programs. Youth are going to be benefiting from skills training, employment programs, and psychosocial interventions. Specifically in relation to the CAC 2000 Foundation's Technical Skills Training and Empowerment Program, it provides psychosocial support to 20 medium to high-risk youth and enrolls them in a 9-month modular-based training program on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Certificates of completion will be provided at the end of each module, and participants who complete the 2 modules will automatically be entered into the Carrier Air Conditioners General Training Air Conditioning Level 1 course. The youth are between the ages of 18 to 24 and drawn from Majestic Gardens. Again, some of the other partners as well, Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation. Now, the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation's Youth Boost program is working with 20 youth between the ages of 14 to 29, selected from the communities of Central Kingston and Majestic Gardens. Over the course of 12 months, youth will participate in CBT interventions, skills training, and livelihood support activities. And by CBT, we mean cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a talking therapy that can help you manage your problems by changing the way you think and behave. The other partner, Jamaica Energy Partners. The Jamaica Energy Partners is implementing a 3-pronged approach to empower 20 youth between the ages of 18 and 24, consisting of skills training, apprenticeship training, and behavioral modification using life skill sessions. The year-long intervention is being implemented in the communities of Tivoli Gardens and downtown central communities in Kingston. I believe the partners have already completed the signing. The Jamaica Public Service Foundation, the JPS Foundation, will recruit 40 medium to high-risk youth in the targeted communities of Augusttown, St. Andrew, Canaan Heights, Clarendon, Granville, St. James, and Trenchtown, Kingston. Through a partnership with Multicare Youth Foundation, participants will receive life skills training to develop their social skills and mental preparation for the work world, as well as select one of the following areas of skill certification aligned with their individual business needs. These areas include vegetation management, metal shop and welding, customer service, and electrical installation. Lasco Chin Foundation's Sustainable Socio-Economic Intervention SSI model is working with 40 at-risk youth, providing CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, extended one-to-one business mentorship, and access to business support services in entrepreneurship and long-term financial and technical support. The SSI model that was designed by LCF involves an innovative strategic co-creation of partnerships between professional mentors, psychosocial practitioners, community police, and other stakeholders that address both the immediate and broader environment of at-risk youth. And the Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited, Manpower, through its Institute for Workforce Education and Development, will train 30 medium to high-risk youth aged 17 to 35 on the requisite vocational skills for employment, entrepreneurship, as well as behavioral modifications through cognitive behavioral therapy intervention. The 6-month program will be implemented in the communities of Rose Heights and Canterbury in St. James. Now, through the LPD's partnership with these 18 private sector organizations, a variety of employability skills training interventions, entrepreneurship development, apprenticeships, and job placement opportunities have been developed. So far, 52 youth have been placed in businesses, and the LPD continues to leverage private sector support to create livelihood opportunities for at-risk youth. So we've completed the signing right now. We are going to be, in a short moment, entering into that panel discussion that I mentioned. We're going to be finding out why these companies are involved, what made them decide to do, make a historic change this morning and get involved in crime prevention initiatives in a very, very direct way. Now, as we head into that panel discussion, we're going to be sharing with you, we're inviting, in a short moment, we will be sharing with you some material highlighting another activity that LPD implemented in Clarendon. Again, the local partner Again, these entities are involved in a range of crime prevention initiatives. This is a first, as we've been said, this is quite historic. These entities are getting involved in the initiatives themselves in a way in which many private sector organizations have not. Most, they've been part of a national conversation, of course, about crime and violence, but have not sought to implement any programs themselves. And 180 young people from several communities across several parishes will be benefiting from these interventions. Hotspot communities in Kingston, in St. Catherine, in Clarendon, and in St. James as well. We're going to be inviting the members of the panel, the CAC 2000 Foundation Limited, Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation to the podium so that we may begin the panel discussion, as well as the Jamaica Energy Partners Limited, the Jamaica Public Service Foundation, the Lasco Chin Foundation, the Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited, as well. We're inviting the partners to the podium as we prepare to begin the panel discussion and find out more about why they have decided to take part in this intervention, what they hope to achieve, and highlighting some of the work that they are now doing and some of the work as well that they hope to do. And we'll be hearing from these representatives. The panelists will be Ms. Janelle De Freitas. She's Foundation Manager at CAC 2000 Foundation. Ms. Sandrina Davis. She is the CEO of the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation. Mr. Wayne McKenzie is the President and CEO of the Jamaica Private Power Company Limited and the West Kingston Power Partners. Ms. Marilyn McDonald is Manager of Community Renewal at the Jamaica Public Service. Professor Rosalie Hamilton is Chief Executive Officer of the Lasco Chin Foundation. And Audrey Stewart Hinchcliffe is Chairman and CEO of Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited. I believe they're waiting for me, so please be seated. So we're going to be continuing with the panel discussion right now, and we're going to be continuing in the panel discussion right now. As I said, just mentioning the names of some of the individuals here. Ms. Janelle De Freitas from CAC 2000 Foundation, Ms. Sandrina Davis from the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Mr. Wayne McKenzie from the Jamaica Private Power Company Limited, Ms. Marilyn McDonald from the Jamaica Public Service, Professor Rosalie Hamilton of the Lasco Chin Foundation, and Audrey Stewart Hinchcliffe from the Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited. So I wanted to start this discussion by asking each of the panelists, starting in this direction with the CAC Foundation, to talk about some of the interventions that you've worked on. Why exactly did you decide to get involved in the communities that you are involved in?
Thank you for that, Archibald. So CAC 2000 Foundation is, we really look at the growth and development of Jamaicans. And we are very keen on ensuring that each person has access to quality education, whether it be formal or informal, and we do that through our skills training program. For us, where we are currently operating, we operate in several communities in Kingston, but our program right now is focused on Majestic Gardens, and that really is our backyard. And we know that it is so important for us to focus on the youth, ensuring that they have a legacy long-term mindset, understanding that there is purpose in them and purpose for future, to ensure that they have an opportunity to make a difference in their communities and our society on a whole.
And that community overall has a range of different kinds of challenges.
Yes, it does.
So
currently we found that several of our participants, the youth from that community, are terribly affected by, of course, crime and violence. Lack of resources. Currently, they would have just come out of the ZOSO, so they actually had been. Our participants felt as if they're a little bit suppressed, so they haven't had the same kind of access to education and resources as other communities and other youth within the area.
Let's move on to Ms. Sandrina Davis. Thank you so much, Mr. Freitas, of the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation. Why are you involved in the communities in which you're involved, and which communities are they?
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy to be a part of this. It's the preventative for us, right? Grace and Staff has been building a bridge of human care and understanding for years. The understanding aspect has allowed us to figure out what are some of the things that contribute to crime and violence. Our operations, our foundation are in varied communities: Central Kingston, West Kingston, as far as Spanish Town. We offer tuition support to students across the island. This project, wonderfully called Youth Boost, which we are very excited about, is going to allow us to focus on 14 to 29-year-old males in Central Kingston and Majestic Gardens. And we have decided to do 4 facets: CBT, mentorship, education and training, and employment and entrepreneurship. Now, the CBT aspect is super important, that we may talk about that later.
That's cognitive behavioral therapy.
That's correct.
Where people talk about issues.
Right, and so we really want to allow our young men to understand that their thinking, their behaviors, those patterns contribute to them making decisions that would affect their future. We really want to be helping them to understand the importance of impulse control, not to just fly off the handle as Jamaicans are used to, but really working them through stopping, thinking about what these actions could mean for themselves, their family, and their community at large, and to guide them on a path to making better choices, more informed decisions, to think about their actions before they go at it. The mentorship aspect, we have already identified our mentors. So Grace and staff has started the project, right? So we've identified our mentors, we're going through training, and our mentors are going to walk alongside them, helping them to become better versions of themselves. Based on the age range 14 to 29, we have some people who should be in school, who are not in school. We're going to help them with education and training. Remedial education if necessary, those who are adult age, to guide them to get the training that they deserve. And thankfully, we have good partners in corporate. So the employment and entrepreneurship side, Grace Foods has come on board. So some of the partners, or some of the participants rather, will have the option to have a Grace food cart or have a Grace beverage cart and to start their own businesses. And we're also going to guide them with partnering with training agencies, High Trust NTA, Manpower and Maintenance, and to figure out ways that they can grow themselves.
Thank you so much, Ms. Davis. Now over to Mr. Wayne Mackenzie. So from the Jamaica Private Power Company Limited. So, and we're going to be hearing from the Jamaica Public Service a little later on, but why are you involved? Which communities are you involved in?
I don't think it's a matter of why am I involved. It's more us welcoming USAID to support us. We, as a company, we have a group of companies, and we operate. Funnily, we operate in what is termed as risk areas. I don't term as risk areas. There are areas of tremendous advantages. There are areas where people, young people who have social issues, an understanding of behavior, of cause and consequences that determine their life going forward. So what we do in JEP, before I talk about this program that we're working on, what we do in JEP is we identify what we call social impact areas. So in West Kingston, we have 6 social impact areas, from as far east as Matthews Lane to as far south as Southside. And it includes Tivoli Garden, Denham Town, Fletcher's Land, and some aspect of Denham Town, of Arne Garden as well. In East Kingston, where JPPC is, we traverse the corridors all the way up to Mountain View, go along Windward Road, go all the way back to Harbour View. And what we try to do is we focus on what we call pillars. Pillars that will ensure that they're healthy, so we have very good dental and health programs in place, where we provide free at cost to the communities dental and health benefits. And we look at education as another pillar. And we give students within those social impact areas scholarships from primary all the way to tertiary. So some of our dental fairs, some of our students, our scholarship recipients actually practice medicine at the dental fairs and at the health fairs. We look at sport, because one of the things that Jamaica is very, very good at is sports. You know, it's not just Usain Bolt to use Yam, but we have very, very good sportsmen here. And coming out of our program, we have people representing Jamaica and representing the country as a whole. But most importantly, though, what we believe in doing is, because we work with agencies within the community, call them community development agencies. When we work with them, what we do is we empower them to think. We give them opportunities through internship programs. And at the end of the day, we try to get them to start a job. So we're creating micro enterprises within these communities. And then we rotate community members every 6 weeks. So we literally give a possible spark to lives and livelihood in these communities.
Program, and I want to get to that in a second, but let me just finish with the panelists and then return to you by moving to Ms. Marilyn MacDonald, Manager of Community Renewal at the Jamaica Public Service Company. What are some of the interventions that you're involved in?
realize these communities that we are going to be working in are really high-risk communities for youth. So we say, why just focus on technical solutions alone? We see it as a way to involve our youth, provide them with some form of skills training so they can be better citizens of Jamaica. So the skills training takes into consideration welding and metal shop, electrical installation, customer service, and vegetation management. And we see these skill sets as something they can be self-employed with, and also JPS will look at placing some of them for employment. So we just want to give them a wholesome situation.
Professor Rosalie Hamilton here from the Lascaux Chin Foundation. Why did you decide to work in the community or communities you're involved in?
Well, you know, the Lascaux Chin Foundation started in 2018, and that was 1 year after Jamaica faced one of the highest murder rates in the world. The company led by Chairman Lascaux Chin was very concerned about the context in which he's operating as a businessman, and importantly, the work that had been done in Lascaux for over 20 years with the police. And so we thought it was important to strengthen that and provide a much more targeted intervention that surrounded the schooling interventions that kids are, to help them while in school, as well as to help them to become good business persons. Those were the two broad interventions. Importantly, we recognize that there's not a single intervention. So they're thinking we needed to go beyond offering a scholarship. And so the intervention we have in the schools not only provide help with school fees, but extra lessons to ensure that the academic work is, we bring them up to speed, and a range of other interventions, working with the parents, making sure the parents also have employment. So our concept of the social and economic intervention recognizes that we have to ensure that there are economic opportunities. Those kids cannot learn in school if they're going home hungry. So we provide food to the homes. And so and we also work in the community as well to strengthen that community engagement. On the entrepreneurship side, I'll just say quickly, that's the partnership we now have with FHI 360. Our first intervention was very clear that helping them to earn as they learn, which is what we're doing in the program, was not enough, because we saw that they brought a range of psychosocial issues into the program that made it very difficult for many to sustain businesses and grow their business. And so we're really, really happy for this intervention. It enabled us to provide the kind of psychological assessment that we should. The last point there is, we shouldn't be surprised at this, because UNICEF have done a study some time ago that said about 80% of our kids have experienced abuse. These kids grow up to become men and women with serious psychological problems. And what we've found so far is nearly 80% of the youngsters are suffering from anxiety and hostility and anger. Those are the issues that they're facing, and they're evidence of depression, etc. So we have to address those things simultaneously as we help them to become better businesswomen.
And let me bring in here Mrs. Ishte. What are some of the communities you're involved in? Why did you decide to get involved?
Those of you who know Manpower, we operate island-wide, and my workers come from these communities. We hire those who nobody else wants. And so we train, we place, and we employ. We have been at this since 2008. And starting with the parents, we get complaints from the parents about the bad son. And so we start working with the parents to bring them in. And so we started going out to the agencies, government and private sector, to partner with us. So training started within Manpower and the establishment of the Institute of Workforce Education and Development. We now have the opportunity to train and certify them. We have worked with the government, Ministry of Labor.
Yes.
We've worked with Planning Institute of Jamaica. We've worked with Red Stripe. We have worked with
I'm going to have to just cut you off just for 1 minute. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulty hearing you. So we'll solve that problem. But in the meantime, I just want to go back to Mr. McKenzie for a second, because I saw you shaking your head there a lot. And I really want to talk about your work experience programs. As I understand it, you have 19 youth working at 3 different power plants. Why is work experience such an important part of your intervention?
I don't think if you apply the scholarly to the practical, right? What you're going to do is to have a complete human being. And I hear Professor Hamilton spoke about the social issues, the nuances that came into the program. And one of the good things that I've experienced with these guys, my guys, is they have a WhatsApp group. And though they might sound aggressive, it's nothing but idle banter. It's how they communicate. It's how they are socialized. But at the same time, we need to bring some amount of calmness to the narrative, and we believe by assimilating them in the workplace, let them understand the consequence of responsibility and regulation and rules, then you can have a cultural shift. We're talking about a behavioral issue here. You know? We're not talking about people who are isolated and they are different from you and I. We're talking about people whose norm is what we consider different, and they consider us different. But I'll tell you, and we have one of our I was about to say our kids, but it's a young man. We have a young man here who will give testimony of his experience. So we believe that bringing them into the organization, training them on what they have learned, and will give them the option to do one of 2 things. Again, use the company. We do have relationships with heart. And this is just the first of many such small steps that we have to take with these kids. We can't stop here. We can't stop with 2 months of training and think they are trained. So what we have actually done is we have opened the mind space of some brilliant kids who recognize their true potential, and if we do nothing about it, it's going to breed frustration, and it's going to cause the same negative spiral that we don't want, which is why we started the program in the first place.
You were talking about a little earlier on, Ms. Hinchcliffe, because you're talking about the fact that some of your workers, this is what they're actually seeing and having to deal with their own children.
Volatile communities, Montego Bay, St. Ann, Clarendon, and all through over the corporate area, working with different agencies. For example, not only do we train them and hire them, but we also equip them to go out to provide employment. One project that we had with Jamaica Social Investment Fund under the same Youth at Risk heading is that they were trained and given the equipment, grounds and landscape. They were given weed walkers. Those who were to do plumbing and light electricals were given tool belts. And it was important to note that before the class was over, before graduation, they were already getting attached at work sites and so on. So we have come to realize that there's hope for these young people. We cannot work with the young people unless you work with the parents, because they still need guidance. Those who are in communities that can't move around and stuff like that, we have to understand that just working with them and sending them back there without some type of support. So that it is so important that organizations such as the PMI and those who are participating in this local partnership development program have an important role, because after we are through with training them, to follow them up, to provide support, those who are doing the psychosocial support and what have you. So this comprehensive approach is something that we have seen that has worked. Their education, those of us who have to come back to school, and my staff from IWED is here, the director, Verica Bennett, and her assistant, Renee. Renee came out of one such program. Was it youth or SEAT, Renee? Special Youth Employee under Ministry of Labor. Renee is now registered in a PhD program. We have so many success within Manpower, youth at risk people who have come out of highway training. One is now my executive assistant. And throughout Manpower and other client location, we find them. So the intervention works. The project that we did with Ministry of National Security in Montego Bay, we were able to hire and place a number of those. So as I said, we have been at this since 2008 with a number of different agencies. The Red Stripe program, I mean, that one has been so successful that these at-risk youth who came out of that program, some of them are now working on cruise ships, along with training, with bars to go, and so on.
So it has to lead to something, and a big part of getting to lead to something is
If you are going to be dealing with them, the end is not that they are employed or back in school, then we have to continue to engage with them. I have one case that I must, with a short time, explain. We were doing a course with about, I can't remember how many of them, with Housing Trust. A young man, a teenager who was not part of the program, came with his aunt. And he said, "Miss, if you don't take me in this program, I'll be dead by next week." He graduated at the top of the class. The last time I met him, he was a supervisor at Emancipation Park. So we have been at it, and we have had some success stories. And now the fact that we have a fully established institute, a tertiary level institution, coming from way from the going, a 6 weeks program right up, we can now take them straight up to a degree program. And we do have some. Those with the massive school dropout, we have a project with the Ministry of Education where they are getting trained with maths and English, and our pass rate is phenomenal, and they do get a skill. So right out of that program, they sit City and Guild.
So
right out of that program, we are placing them in jobs. And I can tell you, if you go to some supermarkets, they are the ones who are packing your bags. They are the ones who are following you to parking lots. They are the ones who are packing shelves. And if you go into many, many other organizations on the wharf and so on, we have them. They are from these inner city, volatile. My workers don't come from uptown. They come through these programs.
Which is why this idea of the skills-based skills training is so important. And
right, and many of our clients, many of our clients come to us, and they are the people, we get the opportunity to place them with our clients as well.
Let me bring Ms. McDonald back into the conversation here, because I know that part of your program, that's why skills training is so important. What are you doing?
Okay, great. So basically what we're doing, we're looking at skills training that they can use right away. So for example, we had some experience about 2 or 3 years ago where we trained some young men in lineman activities. They are now linemen within JPS. So we try to make sure they move to the next level. So the training that we're looking at is electrical installation. And with electrical installation, you know, we need licensed electricians in Jamaica. And just recently, the Government Inspectorate of Jamaica would have now changed to the GER, where they need additional licensed inspectors and additional licensed electricians. And we just see this as something that they can be employable, because when we work in our communities and persons try to get their houses wired, they can't find licensed electricians anywhere. So right there we see that there's an opportunity. Vegetation management, similar to landscaping, it is an opportunity for them to be self-employed. And metal work, you know, someone needs a metalwork person every day, you know, so we just figure that something, training like this will be beneficial, and customer service is never too much. You know, we have BPOs all over the place, and we see where getting involved in these training will bring the young men or women to another level.
I know at the same time When you talk about livelihood development, getting them employment ready, that's one of the big factors. But at the same time, you also have to look at the sort of psychosocial aspects of the young people's lives. So I want to bring back in Professor Hamilton here, and then I want to bring in later on Miss Davis over there from the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation. Now, we've been talking about CBT overall, which is a big word for what exactly, Professor Hamilton? Which means?
Extent to which we recognize that there are psychological issues that impact behavior, and to the extent that we can provide interventions that can address it, it can in fact shape outcomes. And so what we're doing in our program, we've provided some analysis going in. We do some surveys going in to really assess the levels of anxiety, depression, etc. As I mentioned earlier, that we're seeing very high rates. So those have to be tackled. We can't expect them to run businesses and be depressed or angry. Obviously, that will play out in terms of business dynamic and interactions. So the idea is to simultaneously provide those kinds of interventions while giving them the business skills that they need to run successful businesses.
And the reason why it's so important is because this aspect provides a holistic approach to the transformation that we seek, right? We've all been exposed to different projects, maybe 6 weeks, 4 weeks, that had scholarships or training. But now we're able to go right to the root, right to the deep parts of what is this cause? What is the problem that is creating, young men who are going straight to violence as their first decision? And so for us at Grace and Staff, we've been spending the time, careful time, in the group sessions with the young men. We're going to be moving on to individual sessions, to family sessions. We really want to delve deep into what's in the mind, what's in the heart, what's causing the eruption that Jamaica is experiencing, and we cringe when we watch the news at night. And so we've been spending a lot of time going through the CBT aspect of it. We know fully well that mentorship makes a difference. We know that education and training makes a difference. We know that entrepreneurship and employment makes a difference. But this partnership is really special because we're going to affect it from the root. And we look forward to the transformation. We look forward to the success stories. And we're already hearing from the young men when they go back to their communities and they have to make choices. They say, Dr. Sweeney told me, he said, the young man said, when I thought about dropping the stone in the man's head, I remember what we talked about in our session, and I had to choose a different approach. That makes it all the more worth it for us at Grace and Staff, and we'll continue, and we're hoping that we'll be continuing even after this 1 year pilot is completed. We think that many of the other communities that we work in will benefit from this kind of approach, and we look forward to it.
General Defrators, you're kind of taking not a similar approach as well in your program, in your intervention, from the psychosocial perspective. Why is that important for you?
Well, firstly, our program is called TSTEP. It's the Technical Skills Transformation and Empowerment Program. And we are teaching them the skill in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And as we do that, they're actually pretty excited, and we're excited because we bring them into a classroom. We provide them with tablets and their phones, and they have a technical facilitator in the room with them. So as they're doing this online, they're actually getting an international certification. So at the same time, we parallel this with the psychosocial intervention or aspect to the program, which is now we're trying to transform them. We try to renew their mind. And how we've started that is weekly. We've taken what they've been doing at the primary level. From your in primary, you're always saying the national pledge. We take them through the pledge and we break it down, and we have them saying, wow, I didn't really think about it this way, because they realize then that it's a commitment to self, commitment to the others in the classroom, the community, and our nation on a whole. And so we take that to them, and we're also taking them through now a goal setting aspect. So now that they see the commitment to themselves, and they now see that they have to set goals, we take them from a short-term mindset to a long-term and legacy mindset. And this is what we've found with many of the guys in our training program. You know, what they're saying to us is, you know, miss, the reason I stay so is because my mother and my father never loved me. And we're trying to correct those mindsets, trying to correct those thinkings within them. So letting them understand that they are purpose driven. There is purpose in them, and that they are here for a purpose. So, and we understand the need for mentorship, because there is a mentorship component to our program, which will take them through the course of the 9 months. And then we also know, we also do with them entrepreneurship. And we also provide them with a toolkit, a starter toolkit that will not only do they go and they can go and get a job, but they're also empowered to start their own businesses. So we understand that it is the psychosocial aspect to the program is extremely important, because giving them the skill alone, yes, it's a transferable skill. Yes, they can learn about HVAC and then go and use it in other aspects. You know, they want to know if the man who fixing the fridge run them too much money. That's what they're telling us. They're saying, wow, this is exciting. But we also understand that for them to run their own business, for them to be the change agents in their communities, to be the leaders in the communities, that they have to have a new mindset, a renewed mindset to how they see themselves and how they see themselves within the community that they're in.
So how is, we have all of these examples you're all talking about and sharing these stories of you know, the experiences and what people have been saying in the program. What would success look like for you? That's my next question, and I'm going to start here with Mrs. Hinchcliffe and then come in this direction.
As for us, is the person who completes the training and is certified and is ready for employment and is ready to go back to school. That is an important component. Anyone who is training and not certifying, I invite you. IWED is a certifying agency. We do your assessment and certify. So all persons
That's the
who are Institute for Workforce Education and Development, owned by Manpower and Maintenance Services. Not only are we a tertiary institution, but we are also an accredited training organization which assess and certify trainees for other organizations. So success for us is the capacity to train, certify, get them employed, or get them back in school. And we have lots of examples of that.
Yeah, success for us would first be livable income, so that they can meet their needs. That's very important, because not only do they try to keep the business alive, but they have to keep themselves alive. And that we look long term and we track their levels of saving and track the extent to which they can turn a profit at least for 3-4 years on a sustainable basis.
Okay, so success for us is a wholesome person at the end of the day, both psychosocially and also with a skill set. For us, we want to know that they can go back in their communities as examples for other young people in their communities, so that they can be impactful in life. So that's what success looks like for us.
It's recognizing that change, evaluating that cause and consequences of where you're coming from, where you want to go. A total transformation of behavior. The transformation of behavior is going to be one where it's pivoted around a sustainability of livelihood from the training that you got. And that is how I define the success of this program.
Success for myself, especially related to this project, would be 3 things. A difference in how young men handle conflict or situations that they think is threatening. Also, open opportunities for education. We want them to, because a lot of people want to go back to school. When you talk to them, that comes first. And so success for us would mean that the younger ones are reintegrated into the education system, and the adults are getting some skill or on their way to employment and entrepreneurship. And lastly, that they come back and talk to their fellow community members about what the difference has been for them and how their lives can be transformed as well.
Success for us is youth who have been trained in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, who have a renewed mindset, and will champion change in their communities. That is what success will look like for us. That there will be, through their mindset, a reduction in crime and violence in their communities. That's a long-term aspect for us. But immediately, we would really like to see them trained. We would really like to see them champion change in their communities.
You have all of these stories, so I want to take it a little more personal, because I hear all of these stories, and I think it's really important for people to understand the kind of impact that these programs have on a really, really personal level. So I want to put you on the spot first, Mr. Mackenzie, to share some of the stories of the people you've worked with in these programs, what you've seen and what you've heard and what they've said.
There's one particular, I told I'm in this WhatsApp group, right, with them, and I didn't even know I'd joined the group. So one of the guys were literally ribbing another one, and a conversation got really tense. Brother don't do this, dog don't do this, and I was listening to it, and I was about to say something to the group, because one of the things that they do respect our authority, right? But then one of the members said to them, "Brother, you don't need to do that." Man a joke, and another one say, "Well, somebody might feel a way about something, so you need to be careful of what you say." And then the group started to coalesce around this narrative that, we really need to quash this thing because it's not that big a deal. And the person who made a statement apologized to the guy, and the other one accepted it, and they said they wouldn't do that again. And that in my mind was the start of the transformation of behavior where they were concerned. The other things I've noticed in the group is there was this competition about getting grades when they do the exam. So you're probably thinking more is that they're not competitive, they don't have a competitive spirit, but they do have it. And they do have a camaraderie spirit about them as well. They wrap around each other. And they come from different places. We're talking about people in a polarized community. You have PMP, JLP, you have this, you have that. But in the program, they're all one and the same. And that for me is an experience that is life-lasting.
Ms. Davis, you were talking about one experience a little earlier on. Can you elaborate on it?
I was not in the room, or psychologist Dr. Sweeney would have shared with me. And we have Ganesh here, who is our project coordinator, and they share the experiences, especially when they're in those sessions with our young men. We try to make sure that they feel comfortable. So, I'm not going to stick my head in and make them uncomfortable, but to listen to the idea that when they spend time with us, they realize that there are other options available to them. I think we discredit a lot that the culture in the communities, tell them it's two things you do, you're not enough for this year. Remember that. So you must defend yourself. The sessions that we've had with them have been able to open their minds into thinking that sometimes a look is just a look. It's not a it's not a this, and we've been able to really use simple examples, like just divulge examples. You're on the corner, somebody passes, what that means. Surprisingly, when they tell you what it means to them, for us, it would be like, oh, maybe they're squinting, the sun was in the eye. But because of the culture, everything means, you need to protect yourself. And a lot of what we've been able to do is to open their minds to thinking there are many different reasons why this has happened. And I think that's one of the things that has stood out for us, especially because we've started with CBT. So we're able to kind of allow them to think a lot differently than they've been thinking prior to coming to us.
You mentioned that as well, the importance of that sort of psychosocial, Mr. Freitas. And what are some of the examples you've seen?
So we have graduated people from our program before, and what I will say is, firstly, one of the great things is that we've been able to employ people into our program, and we've had graduates working with us from Remo, and other communities like that, Denham Town, and seeing how they have transformed, as somebody who is coming, what to them bleaching their skin is normal. But when it is that we have spoken with them and you empower them, that kind of change in the mindsets and the hearts and the understanding of how it is that they see themselves, it has been phenomenal. And seeing that change where it is that they stop, bleaching, and they come to work with a different mindset and shirt tucked in their pants. We can see there that what it is that we would have been doing in our program previously, and speaking to them and understanding teaching them how it is that they're to see themselves, has been so impactful that they now want to make that change and be leaders in their communities. And even now in the program, with participants that we do have in the sessions that I've even had with them, just those same kinds of things, where it is that they come to you with the thinking that it is okay to solve a problem in a fashion that we would consider negative. It starts with allowed retaliation, or how is it that they're going to address a situation. But one of the things that we come into the classroom and we speak to them constantly on is respect. And we see that difference, because the same thing, we've actually been in class and had them say, oh, I'm sorry, no, he was speaking, no, I will wait my turn. And that fuss in a very short period of time shows us that what we're doing it well, because they are actually feeling the need to be respectful to each other, to be mindful of each other, and you can tell that they feel that there's a sense of trust within the room. And I think that is extremely important, especially as we try to develop them and understand their psychosocial needs, the backgrounds that they're coming from, as we teach them ways to earn a living.
Now I want to bring in Mrs. Hinchtooth here, because you're very passionate when you start to talk about the kind of impact of these programs, especially including on your business, people you've worked with and are continuing to work with. What are you seeing?
Well, the base of my workforce are these people. The base of my manpower workforce are coming from where these people are from. They are the ones who make up the base of my workforce. I can remember when we started in this business with these youth, soldiers used to come to sit at the door because there are fights and quarrel and everything from the community came to the classroom. And we found that was not the right thing, that intimidation. What we needed instead was a counselor. So when the irritation and whatnot started, that you could calm them down. And I am happy to say the persons who run my institute, in particular Renee and Verika, who are here, they will follow them into their communities. If they didn't show up, they go looking for them. So as volatile and dangerous as we hear these communities are, our people go in there. I remember sitting in one class that we were doing with a group paid for by National Security in Montego Bay. And one of the young men is saying, why can't we be like this all the time? I mean, it was so touching, because once they go through the door, back to Canterbury, back to Flankers, is a complete, and this is why I said you have to follow them back to the communities to see what is going on there and what kind of support that you can give to them. But my two ladies here, Verika Bennett and Renee, I have never known, regardless of where the volatility is, they are going right in there to go find those students who have dropped out of the class. And as I said, we can see the results. Sometimes they're sitting around after class late. What's the problem? No bus fare. Another thing we make sure we do is that we feed them. When they come, they're coming, can't learn, they have had breakfast. We ensure that all of our projects, even if it does not come out of the project funds, we provide them with a snack or something. And it is interesting, if you give them a patty and a box juice, we have witnessed them cutting that patty in two to take home a piece for somebody. So as I said, we have seen the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but we have been able to work through it, and those are the people, as I said. This, all you hear about how great manpower is out there, it rests on the shoulders of most of these same people who started out as youth at risk.
All right, so let's go back to where we started, and I'll have the last two comments here from Dr. Hamilton as well as Ms. McDonald from the JPS about the importance of these programs. Because where we started out, we're talking about the fact that it's not something private sector necessarily always does. So how important is it for private sector companies to see this as not just a national imperative, but also a business imperative?
Yeah, critical. Obviously, business persons are part of Jamaica. This is a crisis that all of us face, and I think the businesses have to play a role. I want to say from our own experience, the partnership is key, that we have to collaborate much more than, although businesses are competing, we also must collaborate around these social interventions to make them more impactful. I think also it's important that all of this is done in collaboration with the national agenda. Too often we see that, especially when you work in crime-prone communities, that the efforts are undermined by the bigger social context. Businesses are destroyed and so on. And so it's very important that there's effective partnership with the kinds of collaborative efforts that I see increasingly happening with civil society organizations, private sector, and more effective work on the ground with government so that the policy framework and the national interventions can align.
Okay, so for JPS, we see that partnership is very effective, and we notice over the years that there's not much that we can do without partnership. And we have had some of the agencies here in the room, we have established partnerships with them, and thus also the name of the JPS Foundation. And we have experienced that when we have partners, we succeed better in these communities. And just for persons to see that JPS cares, you know, and that was our logo, and we have another logo, but just for persons to see that we care and we want to have impact in their lives, because without the government partnership, without the private sector partnerships, Jamaica will not get anywhere. And I think that should be the bigger picture in terms of the vision of Jamaica and 2030 vision of Jamaica.
No, we have been hearing from the panelists about the impact of the program from their perspective, but we also have some testimonials from individuals who have been involved in these programs. We're going to be hearing a testimonial first from Nathan Gordon, and then we're going to be hearing another testimonial from O'Shane White. So first we're going to be hearing from Nathan Gordon and then from O'Shane White. They're going to be just sharing their vision of how this program has worked, how it has impacted them, the kind of the kind of change that it has engendered in their lives, so that we, apart from the people here who are always talking about this impact, but also just sort of see and hear from those who are involved in the program themselves about the kind of change that it's bringing to their lives, as well as the kind of change that it's bringing to the lives of other participants with whom they are interacting. So first we're going to be hearing from Nathan. Nathan.
Good afternoon. During the course of during the course of being in the Lascaux Chin Foundation and in partnership with the USAID, we have been learning a lot about budgeting and how to start up our own business, learning a lot more than just business-wise. There have been a lot of counseling sessions of them talking to us and expanding our minds about a lot of stuff, including family-wise, friend-wise, and just helping us to cope during this pandemic and trying to motivate and build us.
All right, thank you very much. That's Nathan Gordon. Involved in one of the programs. We actually have a third participant, so we're going to take all three. Third testimonial. So second, we're going to be hearing from O'Shane White. O'Shane's going to be sharing his experience.
Good afternoon. I was given a life-change opportunity. I was sent to UTech to learn a trade. I'm learning electrical engineering. It has been a great experience, to be honest. We've learned a lot. Well, myself, I've learned a lot. I can't speak for anyone else, but I have learned a lot. And I was also learned that, I was learning about how to deal with certain situations. We also have a behavior and modification class where we learn how to deal with certain situations, how to deal with angers, how to deal with people, and all and stuff like that. I also got the opportunity to work and plant at the Dr. Bird in Old Harbour, where I'm pushing forward to learn more about the practical side of the electrical engineer. So I also want to say thanks in advance to the USAID and the JEP for giving us this opportunity to change our lives and see life in a good way, in the better way, and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, O'Shane. And O'Shane is working on involved in that work experience that we were talking about, that the Jamaica Energy Partners is putting on. We're also going to be hearing, actually, I have a third person who is here, who is Kareem Jones. Kareem is also involved in one of these programs. So we're going to be hearing from Kareem right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alright. I want to give a well shout out to the staff members of the organization. From start the organization, I feel welcome. Staff feel welcome. And like know about stocks, we know for budget, we know how to get sponsors to a business and certain for. And I want to say, from start the class, it's like more ideas keep on come. Cause where no instructor mindset is like more want to start a business and the class I push me forward towards having that business done. I just look back up, because you know say and everything you can start on your own. You might need some strength. I want to say you don't want strength, so you might need some strength. So just I give a big shout out to the staff and members of the organization.
Thank you very much, Kareem Jones. And we heard earlier from Nathan Gordon as well as O'Shane White. And we want to thank as well our panelists for today, Ms. Janelle De Freitas, Foundation Manager at the CAC 2000 Foundation, Ms. Sandrina Davis, CEO of the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, Mr. Wayne McKenzie, President and CEO of the Jamaica Private Power Company Limited and the West Kingston Power Partners, Ms. Marilyn MacDonald, Manager of Community Renewal at the Jamaica Public Service, Professor Rosalie Hamilton, Chief Executive Officer of the Lasco Chin Foundation, and Mrs. Audrey Stewart Hinchcliffe, who is Chairman and CEO of Manpower and Maintenance Services Limited. We heard her, they spoke passionately about the program and about the impact that it has had in the communities. And we see the impact as well because we've heard of some of the participants in the program. We'd also like to just remind everyone that this project also involves the USAID agency as well as the LPD private sector partnership program overall. We'd like to thank everyone who's involved and you at home for watching. I'm Archibald Gordon. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.